George St. Pierre, Alexander Volkanovski, Tyson Fury. What do these three men all have in common? They're at the top of their game and they're clean shaved, and you could be too with Manscaped. The MMA Sucker podcast is happy to announce that we are now sponsored by Manscaped, and you can get a massive 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code SUCKER at checkout. Now, a little bit about Manscaped. Manscaped is the best in men's below the waist grooming, offering precision engineering tools for your family jewels. With Valentine's Day just around the corner, there's no better time to invest in the all-new Performance Package 5.0 Ultra, designed to elevate your grooming game. As part of the Performance Package, we have the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, which I've been lucky enough to get my hands on, and it is a quality bit of kit. Quality bit of kit. The electric trimmer features skin-safe technology, making it harder for you to nick yourself than it would be to land on prime Anderson Silver. It also comes with their brightest ever LED spotlight yet. It's brighter than the lights of the UFC. I mean, come on, guys, check this out. Got that. Look at that bright light. Brighter than the lights of the UFC, I'm telling you. On top of that, it's also waterproof, making shower shaves an absolute breeze. But that's not everything. This package also features the Weed Whacker 2.0 nose hair trimmer, Manscaped's liquid formulations, and 2 free goodies. The Shed travel bag, which I've been, again, lucky enough to get my hands on, and Boxers 2.0, because let's be honest, guys, comfort is king. And for those of you that want the sculptured Roy Nelson-esque beard, Manscaped brings you the Beard Hedge Pro Kit, designed to shape your scruff effortlessly. It sculpts the cheek lines and maintains the beard style to give you the suave look for every single occasion, especially those romantic occasions with Valentine's Day coming up. Join 10 million, let that sink in, 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com to bag 20% off with the code SUCKER. Is that enough? No? Throw in free worldwide shipping. Like I said, head over to Manscaped. Head over to manscaped.com. Use the code SUCKER, that's SUCKA at checkout for 20% off and free worldwide shipping. Thank me later. Your balls will thank you. Hello guys, welcome back to the MMASucka channel. My name is Frazer Krohn and I'm joined by Coventry's own, a recognisable face from the MMASucka channel now. I think it's the second or third time, second or third time we've had you on. Melissa, no mess, Mullins. Melissa, how's things?
Good, thank you.
And of course, we're joined by Melissa's dog as well. I can't.
Who's going to be a little bit barky, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, like I
Um,
said, we spoke before.
mhm.
I think from what I can recall, it was before you may have signed for the UFC, or you were just ahead of your Ares fight that got cancelled in the end. So
Yes, I think that was the situation. I think
yeah,
I hadn't yet found out about UFC,
yeah,
and I was mix of missing weight for Ares, and then getting the call for the UFC. Somehow that
well,
worked out.
yeah. Everything happens for a reason. Clearly, it's worked out quite well for you. So let's take it back to 14th of October, I think, was your debut.
Yeah.
Talk me a little bit through that, because from what I understand, you obviously training in Coventry, and then you sort of made the trip over to America to sort of get a little bit of training in sort of overseas, as it were. So how did that come about? How did how did you find training? Obviously, different bodies, different training partners, different training, you know.
Um, so the first thing was trying to find a team. So I applied for American Top Team, and they were quite picky, I guess, is the thing. If you're not doing camp with them and if you're not representing them, then I believe they don't want you to come and train there, unless that's your team. So I got declined from training there. And then I was looking around, the next best place for female seemed to be like Team Syndicate. So I got in contact with them and they seemed to be happy to have me out there. So I went prior to my fight for I think 2 weeks, just to test it out, just to see what the climate was like, etc., etc. And then I went a week out before my fight, And obviously I was quite settled. I had people that I knew out there now. I had people that could help me out during my training while James wasn't going to be there for that week period before fight week. So yeah, going out there 2 weeks prior to the week before fight week was also very helpful. Pause. One
No,
moment. Let me just check.
I think we were
Uh,
talking, yeah, how beneficial it was for you to go out just prior to fight the week before fight. So say a fortnight before fight night.
yeah. So obviously getting used to the climate, the heat, the air is dry, so you physically feel like you're just constantly gasping for air. So getting used to that was definitely a benefit. You was waking up with like blood in your nose. It was really hot, so like instantly you're sweating. Um, Sleeping is different because obviously the air is hot and you have to sleep in an air-conditioned room, so that changes massively. Um, Even down to the food, like the food is very different, like high calorie food. But there's also a lot of diet culture over there, so diet food was easy to come across, but it was finding the foods that were like I liked, but it's also quite expensive. And then obviously I have the PI who pay for, well, they provide, should I say, all of my meals. So it was cheap in that aspect as well. But
Mm.
sometimes you didn't know what you were eating because the communication between the app and the chefs were often confused. So sometimes I ordered once a beef salad with sweet potato, and I ended up with sweet potato and salad with no beef, and I'd already gone home, so I had no food in that sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, just getting over those little hiccups and making sure I understood those sort of things as well was good.
Yeah. And do you think that are you planning on heading? We'll talk a little bit about your new team in a second, but are you planning on, obviously we've got the date, is it 6th of April, 5th of April? I can't work it
Yes.
out with time difference and stuff. Yeah, but 6th of April. So are you planning on heading out there again to sort of acclimatize again? Because like you said, it was almost a bit of a shock to the system by what you were kind of saying.
Massive.
Mm,
I want to. Life's a little bit different right now, so
mm,
affordability is very, very different. So providing I get some sponsors that I'm after, then it might be a little bit more easier. But right now, it's money is uh sought after, not sought after. I have money, but it's like looked after. Like I
no,
need
of
to make
course,
sure
yeah.
I don't go crazy on it. I'm planning to go out there a week before,
Hmm.
on this occasion, and then spend the week before and fight week out there. So yeah, very similar, but maybe not quite the same. I
Yeah.
would ideally like longer out there just because it's so beneficial to be out there prior to everything, and then you can get
Mm.
everything booked as well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. And if an ideal world you did get these sponsors and you did head out there, like you say, is it Syndicate that you'd look at sort of linking back up with again when you head out there, or is it more training, at the PI, or is it what kind of training are you looking for when you get out there?
Obviously, I built a relationship with Syndicate. I'm still quite unsure whereby what I'll do when I go out there, providing my situation back here.
Mm.
I think at the moment, based on my situation here, I will be looking to train out the PI more, but also head over to 10th Planet in Henderson with Andy and Casey, who are some very inspiring people. I really enjoy training out there with the 10th Planet guys, and I come back with a lot of confidence in my wrestling and my grappling. Um, so for me, I think based on my team here, which as you said, we'll get into in a minute, that would be based for stuff out of the PI, bringing people to the PI to get one-to-ones in with, and then training with the grappling team at 10th Planet.
And so there's two aspects I wanted to talk about just from what you said there. First of all, just how good and how sort of state of the art, as it were, is the PI, and remind me to if I forget, remind me to ask you about the grappling tournament, because like you say, you've come away with a lot of confidence, but I mean that confidence is not only from having good training partners and good training, but also, for want of a better phrase, smashing your tournament that you competed in at the towards the end of last year. So first, stick it to one question: the PI. How good is it? Because from a media or a fan perspective, we see these 20 punch bags. You see the kind of the rehab area that, like you alluded to earlier, the chefs and whatnot. Just how good is it? Especially, you know, of course, I've never been, and believe it or not, I'll probably believe it or not, I'll never train in there. But it's how beneficial do you think that it is for fighters to have that, especially, you know, this is your second fight in Vegas, and it's
Yeah.
essentially on the doorstep, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'll talk about it from a few perspectives. From having like an open and free access place to train at whenever you wish, and that you can bring people through to as well, and they charge you nothing in that case, is really that the accessibility to that is awesome. Like you have two mats, two cages, and then the strength and conditioning areas. So you're welcome to use all of those with people that you bring in. There's no limit to that. Just the time of opening and closing, obviously.
Mm.
Um, in fight week, it's a little bit more like if there's a fight week happening at T-Mobile or at the Apex, it's a little bit more hectic. So you have to book things in advance much
Mm.
more strictly. And often than not, if you're not fighting, you're low prioritized. So that's where it becomes a little bit of an issue, I guess.
Right.
Especially if you have regular training there and you're sort of bumped to the back of that space because there's
Yeah.
people that need it as a priority. In regards to recovery and physiotherapy, the team there are very, very good. You got Ryan, Bobby, Heather, Olivia. Like they're some of the main guys that were working out of there, and then they have the apprentices that come through. So there's a lot of people available for you. Again, you're bumped to the back of that list when it's fight week because they get hectic, but
Yeah.
their ability to fix you and the accessibility that they have to like the best equipment around. I picked up an AC, I think they called it a sprain or a tear, in my shoulder through being like just spiked onto my shoulder from a double leg in one of my sessions. And I generally believed I wasn't going to be able to compete, but they made it so much so that I felt comfortable enough to compete. And then you've got the strength and conditioning areas. So you've got like Ryan, not Ryan, you've got, forgotten his name, Alex. Alex, who's the guy that I probably accessed more, and that he was in contact with my coach back here,
Mm.
Josh. So having that accessibility and like communication between two teams is really, really good. And then finally, you've got nutrition. So you've actually got the UFC nutrition team and then the UFC cafe. And then they have the specific chefs in the cafe that will prepare your fight week food.
Right.
So nutrition team don't communicate too well with you during fight, like prior to fight week. They only really contact you fight week. But if you need them, they're there. And prior to like all that, they'll sort out like DEXA scans, um, body measurements, sort out how much like your metabolic rate and how much you're burning your calories and how much you need to be eating in camp versus out of camp, etc., etc., etc.
Mm.
So yeah, all of that is pretty sick. And then you've obviously got all the reception and all the higher people up. Like you've got Forrest, who's literally
Yeah.
there every single day. You've got oh God, what's his name? White guy, forgotten it. There's another guy, I'll remember his name later, but English guy that helps that basically pretty much runs the PI. And just being able to communicate with high level people like that. And then not only that, just the motivation of seeing people that you not necessarily aspire to be, but like you
No,
aspire
no,
to
but
be on the level of, you know?
yeah, of course, because you know, just from your Instagram, you know, I've seen pictures of yourself with, I mean, Rose Namajunas, Sean Strickland, who obviously competes. I think this interview will come out after he competes at 297. But you know, you met
Yeah.
Sean Strickland, who I think, am I right in thinking at the time wasn't middleweight champion?
Yes.
So you know, who knows? Maybe it's the conversation with you that really inspired him in that fight. You know, never say never.
He said he liked my glasses, so well, not these
I
ones. I
mean,
had really big
it's a
ones.
compliment, isn't it? You're getting complimented by, like I said at the time, the best middleweight on the planet. So it's not a bad thing. But
Hmm.
so first of all, thanks because you know, like I said, we see pretty much what the UFC want to put out about the PI and you know what fighters put on Instagram, as it were. But that's only
Yeah.
obviously a snippet. So that's a really interesting insight. I appreciate that because that's I'm fascinated by all that stuff. All the recovery and stuff is something that I'm, really fascinated by. But going back to, like I said, I had sort of 2 points I wanted to touch on. The PI, we've got that ticked off now. The grappling tournament. So
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, but you seem to have more of a base in grappling. Obviously, in the Alexeyev fight, I've just checked on UFC stats. It was eight and a bit minutes of control time. So, and it wasn't just control time for control time's sake. You were progressing the positions. You were landing
Yeah.
some pretty savage shots, I must say myself. But you then obviously, we picked up the first UFC win. You come back to Cov at the time, and then you've flown back out to the US. Am I right to compete in
Yeah.
the? I always
IBJJF
yes. I
World
thank
Navy Championships.
thanks right. Thanks for that because I get tongue tied like nobody's business. So yeah, so you've obviously flown out to the US to compete in the tournament. How did that come about? And obviously, did you always intend to compete in that, or is it after the UFC win that you then sort of
Yeah.
maybe found that? I don't want to say found the confidence because I don't think you struggle with confidence, but found that competitive drive, because it must be difficult for you being a competitive athlete to only compete. I mean, like October, then again in April. Yes, you're competing in training, but it's not quite the same. So how did that come about?
It was literally after my fight. I was just having a conversation with some of my team, and they were like, "Do it," and I was like, "Okay." So I just booked it. I've got a good friendship with my friend Avery in Vegas, so I felt comfortable to just be out there in general. I booked it, and I just trained for it like a motherfucker. I mean, I broke my nose in the Alex Eva fight. I don't know at what point again, but it was full on broken to the point of it was meant to be 8 weeks. Went for my X-ray, and then it turned out to be another 8 weeks. So like striking sparring was off the cards. I've only had my second striking session to full sparring on Wednesday. Um, and I was gassed. So a different element of endurance. Got to build back for this next fight.
So ironic that you
But
say you're gassed to finally be allowed to get punched in the face again. It's a
yeah.
different life that we live.
um. So yeah, I booked it. I went out there. I hurt my shoulder while I was out there, like the week of building up to. Weren't gonna compete. Decided to compete. Won my category. Signed up for the absolute with no intention to actually do it. Went home to the house I was staying at, and then went back because I was just convinced by friends to just go and try. Won my first fight, weren't medalled, not yet. Won my second fight, got bronze. Won my third fight, was like, cool, silver medal, like happy right now. And then I won my gold medal, and I was like, shit, I won. 0 points conceded against me.
Mm.
I wouldn't say naturally. Originally, when starting MMA, I would have relied on my grappling. I actually would say it was one of my weaker points. It's naturally become better over time, and it's never been my fun element of my game. I've always loved striking, but in fact, now I feel like we're rooting to the grappling exchanges, and that's how maybe going forward I'm going to be tailoring camps.
So that's, I think, props to you as when things maybe aren't going your way in the fight, you can rely on your wrestling, but obviously, like you say, you like to strike. So every fight starts on the feet at the end of the day, and it's about that being that well-rounded mixed martial artist to be like, okay, I'd prefer to strike, but fuck it, I'll take you down and control you for 8 minutes, then kind of thing. And I think, we'll go on to talk about your fight in April in a second, but it's just looking at some stats from it's Nora Cornell that you're I think that's how you pronounce the name, Cornell.
She's
Forgive me if
French.
I'm forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but she was taken down 5 times in a UFC debut. She did come away with the win.
Yeah.
Um, so it's one of those where I think that she'll, now that you've got that, now that you've got that grappling. I mean, you've always had the grappling base, but now you've kind of got the accolades to go with it. I think that might be a sort of element of fear for her because she
Yeah.
knows that if she gets taken down, it could be a long night for her.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was speaking to my coach this morning and my teammates, and I was thinking like her approach to this camp is going to be looking at my footage and seeing how strong I am in the grapple and maybe focusing her camp on the grapple. But there's only so much of an improvement you can make in a short period of time, especially if your natural stance is to strike.
Hmm.
My striking's by no means like amateur.
No, definitely not.
It needs a lot of work still in my head. I've always come away from fights being like, I could have done better, and then end up crying on camera. But my grapple's gonna overtake us no matter what level she tries to bring it up to. Obviously, not to be naive, I could get caught, get knocked out. I could get caught by a stupid mistake. That can happen, but the plan is she's gonna get completely obliterated on the floor. And my jiu-jitsu coach, Spud, he wants me to break her arm or choke her out until the ref pulls me off.
I mean, I
So
think that's the way to do it, isn't it? Like you say, I don't think there's such a distance between you guys in the striking, but I think in the grappling there is a fair distance already, let alone
yeah,
during these next, what is it, say 3 months, 4 months. It's like you say, you can close the gap ever so slightly, but with yourself improving, it's you're always going to have that distance between you. And I don't think that,
exactly.
like I say, I don't think that her striking's on such a level, with greatest of respect to her, because I don't want to sort of badmouth her, because there's no need for that from my position. But
Yeah,
she's not an Alex Pereira, she's not an Israel Adesanya, she's not you know
yeah.
one of these
You've got to learn
elite
all
girls.
these, you know.
She's a good fighter, but like you said, I think the distance between you guys already is it's not so much in any area apart from the grappling that would cause you problems. With
Yeah.
with obviously you've got one fight, she's got one fight. We'll talk about that fight now, and then we'll go on to your new team, because it's just the way it's gone. Are you a little frustrated that maybe you didn't get a slightly higher ranked opponent? Because I've written an article about, five Brits to watch. Yourself was in it because,
Yeah.
I think we've got that connection anyway, of both being from the same city. And then obviously I followed your career since before the UFC. But are you a little frustrated not to maybe get a slightly,
Mm.
even a ranked opponent, or for want of a better phrase, a more
I was
well-known opponent?
expecting that that Chandler, Chelsea Chandler, I think
Yes,
her
that's
name is.
exactly who I put. That is exactly who I tried to matchmake you with on the
Yeah.
website.
That's a lot of people who we thought, to be honest, and that's a lot of people's sort of theory. Like when I've had dropped inboxes, like people think like, "Oh, you should fight this girl next." That's been like a common name. Um, Obviously, I sit just outside of 16. I think 17 officially on the UFC, but maybe 14 on Tapology,
Hmm.
something like this. So yeah, ideally I would have loved a ranked opponent. And I think the frustration is that Nora and I both got signed to the UFC at the same time. And I thought the idea of those two signings or our signings were to bump us up and somehow make the bantamweight roster a little bit more interesting, because ultimately she is a very good Muay Thai fighter for her level, and building her up through the ranks, she should get better, as am I as a like complete MMA fighter, I
Yeah.
guess in some senses, or like I'm
Oh,
quite
definitely.
balanced
Yeah,
everywhere.
definitely. Yeah.
I was expecting to be built up, bringing other people out of the rankings while we go up, and then eventually we meet somewhere top five, so on, so on. Um, so I'm not quite sure as to why I got Nora, but a fight's a fight. I take any fight, I never say no. So we move.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I can see it almost potentially being like if you remember, Sean O'Malley and Marlon Vera fought each other when they were both, well, when Sean was quite early on in his career. Yes, he picked up the loss in that one, but now look at what's happening. They're fighting for the title. So it could even be a case of you guys fighting now and then again in 3 or 4 years' time with
yeah. To be honest, I imagine that fight with Daria, because Daria just got
yeah, yeah, that was a really
A
good
US
fight. Yeah.
visa, and
Yeah, like
hopefully
you
I don't
say,
get punched
yeah.
in the face too hard.
Yeah, no, that was I mean, I've watched the fight multiple times, and the amount of people that have said, "Oh, did you see that fight with you see that fight when she ended it in the?" I was like, yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it probably more times than most people, but yeah, it was a really really fun one. So like you say, that's a fight that we could see again. That's a fight that we could see again in the future. But
Yeah,
looking ahead on the card that you compete on, we've got Norma Dumont and Jermaine Durandamy. So that's maybe someone that you could potentially be looking at. It I imagine, you're focused on Nora, but there's other bantamweights, ranked bantamweights, former featherweight champion, but
Yeah.
there's other ranked bantamweights on the card. That's surely got to be something that you sort of, you're keeping in the back of your mind, because if best case scenario, you come out unscathed and one of those girls comes out unscathed, the
Yeah,
timelines
I mean,
work. Then the timelines
definitely
work.
potential. Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I was watching I think it was the fight before my fight. When was I? No, but the fight before Worlds. So when was Worlds? Worlds was the first. So it was the November card in the Apex. And I was watching the bantamweights from there, and I was just thinking, I would generally like dominate these females. If I could bring how I am in training into that cage, I would dominate these females. Um, so yeah, I definitely feel that like being able to almost be the underranked fighters and performing better than those fighters. Hopefully that puts me on the books to be able to be like, yo, I should be up there with those guys. And if someone acknowledges that, then hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think your personality really came across during fight week. Obviously you made weight and you were buzzing with that because we did have the issue beforehand. But even
Yeah.
it looked like, I mean, I don't think a weight cut is ever easy from what I understand, but it looked like you
This
made it
one
with
was
ease.
so easy. It
Really,
was
really.
ridiculous. Yeah, dude, I was sat in the fucking sauna with Michelle Pereira and fucking Barboza, and
Oh,
obviously they're
big
all
guys, big
dying.
guys, big guys.
Yeah, but dude, the first sitting. So bear in mind, I've already had a pad session and I've been in the sauna blanket. And at first, like the first bit is always horrible. Like you've got to kind of settle into it, however you do that, but you do.
Mm.
Um, but the first bit is always disgusting. And we left the hotel and we went to the PI to sort out to go to the booking. I thought my first sitting in the sauna was 25 minutes. I was just like, this is chilling. Um, Wrapped up in a foil blanket, dude. I wasn't munching sweets, but I was sucking on sweets and sucking on ice and then like spitting it in a thing. I was thinking, I've never done this before. Like this is amazing. Like it kept me going. And then obviously you've got the music from like Michelle Pereira's team, which is creating massive vibes. Sat in the sauna again for another 20 minutes, did exactly the same thing, coming out, and then 15 minutes come out, and then I was on weight. I was like, don't need to do anything else. Literally woke up. Uh, can't even remember what I did in the morning. I think I was just on weight. Or maybe I had a bath. Like I literally can't remember. It was just such an
Mm.
easy process. I
Yeah,
think I did
yeah.
4 or 5 things. Stood on a scale, the most healthiest I ever looked.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And it's surely that's got to be a sort of a confidence going into April. Obviously we have got a few months now. The weight will be getting dialed in. You're not going to be on weight from now until April. I mean, I think that's probably not. And if you are, maybe I'll suggest a move down into
I'm
to flyweight. But
I'm not.
that's
I
got,
wish, but I'm not.
yeah. But surely that's got to be a moment or a situation, like you say, because we did have the unfortunate weight miss for Ares, but then to do it with such ease on for the biggest fight of your life on the biggest stage of your life must have been, that's got to be a sort of, you got to take confidence into being able to really put it in and not worry too much about the weight in come April.
Yeah, 100%. Like as I said, it was quite nerving thinking that I was gonna miss weight. As soon as I got the call, I was on it with my weight,
Hmm.
um, and my diet. I still went in quite heavy. I mean, I think I was walking around fight week 69, 68, like the weekend before the Monday. Um, and I did drop my concerns to Dan and Glenn, who were the nutrition team, and they were like, "Don't worry, it's just like a bit of water weight, maybe, etc." And they kept my confidence high that I was gonna make this weight. Um, Still training quite heavily as well that week, so my calories were still quite high because they were sorting out my food. But the food, even the food, like so, I hadn't realized how wrong I'd done fight week in terms of my food. The UFC pretty much starve you, um, but they also give you the correct amount of food for what you need, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
literally, I was waking up and I had eggs with like a sour cream or something like this. I can't remember what it was. It was pretty much the same meals every day.
Mm.
Um, Dinner was like shredded chicken with some kind of sauce, and they gave me one lettuce leaf. Um, you had dinner was a slice of salmon with a butter, and then you had like a cheesecake, like a protein cheesecake or something like this, like a keto one. Or you got a creme brulee kind of thing. It was weird. And then you had fruit. So they were like your five pots of things. And
Yeah.
when I say small, it was like a handful of food. And then if you were training, you had a UCAN bar, which is like an energy bar. Don't have any with me. Um, which was like a stimulus to help your energy levels. But yeah, before I was like just smashing higher calories in fight week because that's what I've always done. Keeping it high fats, drinking lots of water. I was still water loading, by the way, but like in terms of food, it just was very different. And I think that was a very big thing towards it. And even like way before the day before weigh-ins, I smashed some pineapple. I was like, normally I fast from the Thursday up until the Friday morning.
Mm.
But I was eating Thursday morning as well, the same amount of food, but
Yeah. Even so,
eating.
it's got to be sort of good morale as well to be able to, oh, right, I can actually eat, which is something that I'm not quite
Yeah,
used to. But
it was crazy.
yeah, exactly, exactly. We've kind of, we've bounced around. We've mentioned that you've got a new team. So, how is that new team? And just can you just talk about, because are you splitting your time between two teams at the moment? So
Yes,
what's how's that? Is it what, a couple of weeks that you've been across both teams,
kind of.
give or
So,
take? Yeah.
my official split from Lions Gym, which is based in Coventry, was on Thursday just gone.
Hmm.
Um, it was unfortunately very, and like I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
Um, there was no conversation leading to it. It just kind
Hmm.
of happened.
Hmm.
Just to clarify, myself and James, we are fine. We're friends. And if anybody is unaware, unfortunately, we're going through a divorce. It was my choice. Um, there is nothing bad in the situation. It's just life changes, and
Of course.
he's generally an awesome person. And hopefully we've got a strong friendship in the future.
Yeah, of course.
But just so people are aware, the split isn't from myself and James, and he is a brilliant coach. And if I could have him in my corner as a full-time coach, I would. But unfortunately, the situation doesn't allow that. So I am currently, and I was over Christmas while I was still at Lions training with Faber Jiu-Jitsu, which is run by Ben Robson, aka Spud, awesome jiu-jitsu coach,
Is that
awesome
based
grappling
still
coach.
in Coventry?
Yes, that's in Stoneleigh.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Um, so my time is split between there and now Team Renegade. Team
Right.
Renegade is the new addition.
Yeah.
So I've been going there once in a while to train with Lexi Rook,
Yes.
and Veronica Hardy. Um, and it's always been a fun map. Like I've really enjoyed being there when I have been there. But obviously, the official split with Lions has forced me to sort
Yeah.
of make that change, and that's been since last week.
Right.
They seem happy to have me. I was speaking to Leon the other day. I was like, please just give me 4 weeks, let me know my situation, let me settle, and then we'll talk. So in my head, I'm representing Renegade, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. So I want them to feel comfortable with me and me to feel
Oh, of
comfortable
course.
with
Yeah.
them. And so far, so good. I've got pad session with Fabian next week. I've got a pad session with Henry, which is Leon's coach, also
Yeah.
next week to see like how those styles match me and like
Yeah, of
who
course.
will be like my pad man going forward. Um, and yeah, that's all I can really say. I've had a brilliant first few days. The mat is wonderful. I'm
Mm.
enjoying my training, and training with Lexi and Veronica has been real fun.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
because it's not the easiest sometimes to find a lot of training partners, I imagine, for you guys. But I think Lexi's a bantamweight as well, isn't she?
she is. She shouldn't be, but she is. She should be flyweight, but
Yeah. Oh, really? She's quite
yeah.
heavily muscled though, isn't she? So it's
She's got a very good shoulder girth and a very
yeah.
good leg girth, but she's got tiny hips. Oh,
No, I
tiny
was trying.
waist.
I should have spoken to her last Friday, but work got in the way for her. So I'm going to try and Try and get that. Maybe I can get all three of you on a podcast, and we can I can chat to yourself, Lexi, and Veronica. That would be a good laugh, I think. But obviously, Veronica slightly more maybe well known than Lexi, but just because of being in the UFC. But Lexi's what 2-1 now, I think. She won her
I
last.
believe so.
Yes, I think she
Yeah.
won her last one. End of last year, towards the end of last year. So it must be, and I'm also, it must be nice for her as well because from what I can gather from speaking to her in the past, she's come down from Manchester, Liverpool area to train out of Renegade full time. So obviously, with you
Yeah.
now also being sort of, she's the new girl and you're also the new girl. So it must be nice to be able to train together, and you've got that kind of connection there as well. And obviously, with Veronica training there as well. I saw a picture from, I think it was weekend just gone, with Dan Hardy's there. So it's all that knowledge of, like you say, Leon, Fabian, Henry, Dan Hardy, and Veronica and Lexi, and everybody else that trains at Renegade. It must be and of course you've got your is it, do you say Faber Jiu Jitsu as well?
Yeah.
So
It
yeah,
was
you've got,
you.
yeah, you sort of gathering all the information that you can. I think it's going to be really beneficial. I'm really looking forward to the fight in April because
Yeah.
it's whenever anyone either changes team or picks up a new coach, it's not always a bad thing. I think you can learn from new people, and I know that Lexi came down to Lions a good few times to train with you there. So it's I think I'm I can really see that speaking volumes in your upcoming fight in April.
Yeah. She's definitely a grinder, and she definitely makes me put my best self on the mat, as does Veronica, and just having just heads that don't necessarily have to support me at this present moment, but shouting at me and screaming at me on the mat to get a takedown to finish what I need to do, giving me those little bits of advice just because they feel like they want to do that already speaks volumes in itself for the type of team that they are.
Exactly. So I'll go wrap this up because we've got about a couple of minutes left. But 2024, kicking it
Yeah.
off, we've got a new team. We'll pick up the win in April. Realistically, you weren't shy on the mic last time. We're calling out a ranked opponent, whoever that may be. What does the rest of 2024 look like for you?
Um, Maybe after this fight, a renegotiation of my contract, um, getting that top 15 ranked opponent, officially getting my name into the top 15 as well. Um, Probably by the end of 2024, creeping my way up into like top 7, to hopefully hit the ball rolling of 2025 to start making my way for like title contending status.
It's exciting times ahead, and like you say, you are sort of training. You're still training in Coventry, which is the most important bit. It's
Yes,
the best
exactly.
best city on earth. Maybe slightly biased, but you know we can't all go to the bright lights of Las Vegas. It's similar to England's Las
Like
Vegas.
it here. I like it here.
I
People have
like
asked if I'm moving to Vegas, and I'm like, nope. I like
it.
my life where it is.
Well,
It's a bit
maybe
easy.
we'll bring more guys and girls over to Coventry and Birmingham training at Renegade and whatnot, and it will really sort of help to kickstart the scene being known on a more sort of national and even global scale. I think, and you're the sort of poster girl for that at the moment, so it's
Hopefully
definitely a
so.
good sign.
Hopefully so. I mean,
Hopefully so.
we've got myself, Leon, and Veronica, ex Tom Breeze, all at
Yeah,
Renegade.
of
So
course, yeah.
makes sense, right?
Exactly. So, Melissa, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you giving up your morning to sit down and talk to me. We'll try and catch up either, just before the fight, and if not, catch up after the fight. If I don't speak to you before, best of luck. But like I said, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Easy.